All right, this is A.J. Jacobs at the start of the year. Here he is at the end. That's a hell of a beard. Sorry, that's a heaven of a beard. Now, Jacobs says it got caught in zippers, he got food stuck in it, and he got a lot of attention from airport security. Apparently, that little beard there also made 2 girls cry. But the beard is just the beginning. Jacobs says there are more than 700 rules in the Bible. He followed as many as possible, as literally as possible. For instance, you see that outfit he's wearing? No mixed fibers. That's because the Bible forbids the mixing of fibers. He also told the truth all the time. He was fruitful and multiplied. He's now the proud father of twins. He played a 10-string harp. He even stoned an adulterer. And I don't mean hotboxed them, I mean stoned them. I'm not kidding. He wrote about it all in a book called The Year of Living Biblically. Here is the book, and here is the man cleanly shaven and all, Mr. A.J. Jacobs. I guess, you know, people would recognize you. You're on Oprah and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire as well.
That's true.
Your previous and where you became the man who knew everything.
Right. I read the Encyclopedia Britannica from A to Z.
Right, cool. Did you retain any of that?
I retained about 0.05%.
Hey,
but that's a lot. If you know, the encyclopedia is a big thing.
Absolutely. Why did you decide to live the year biblically?
Well, I grew up with no religion at all. As I say in the book, I'm Jewish in the same way the Olive Garden is Italian.
Right.
So, not very.
Like my manager always says that he's Jewish. That's what he feels like. I'm
right.
Jewish. You know?
I would say that too about
Okay.
me. But I had a kid. I wanted to find out about religion, and I do think it's the defining issue of our time. So I decided to dive in head first because that's what I like to do, immerse myself, and I wanted to try to live the Bible, understand it.
And for a lot of people, I mean, even yourself probably thought, there was a period of where they thought, well, eventually religions are going to go away. And eventually people are going to go, we're all going to become an agnostic race, right? But that didn't happen. We're in a pretty highly spiritual time.
Right. I mean, that's what I thought when I was growing up. I was like, you know, science would take over, but it didn't happen. So I wondered, am I missing something? You know, is there some part of me that's not fulfilled, or is it that half the world is completely deluded, like some of the atheists say?
All right, well then you step up and go, I'm going to follow the Bible literally. We don't have a year's worth of time in the show, but tell me what that was like.
Well, it was an amazing experience and life-changing and fascinating, profound, and crazy. I acted, you know, like a crazy man a lot of the time because I was trying to follow everything. So the 10 Commandments, the famous ones, you know, love thy neighbor, but also these hundreds of obscure ones, like you mentioned, not shaving my beard or not wearing clothes of mixed fibers and stoning adulterers.
Yeah, how do you know? Because that's kind of a dick move to stone somebody you don't know. Like, well, what happened?
Well, I did ask permission, so it wasn't a total dick move. But the guy it was then later in my year, and I was dressed in my biblical clothing because I was really trying to get into character. So the white robe, and the sandals. And a guy came up to me, asked me why I was dressed so weird. I explained my project. He says, "Well, I'm an adulterer. You're going to stone me." And I said, "Well, that would be great." So I took out a handful of pebbles I had in my pocket, just because the Bible doesn't specify the size of the stones. I thought, here's my loophole. And the guy, he's actually an elderly man, 70s. But very confrontational.
Hey, you know, the Bible doesn't say, you know, stone them if they're young.
Right. Yeah, there's no age limit. And so he grabbed the pebbles out of my hand and chucked them at my face. So I thought, eye for an eye, I could throw one at him. So that is the way I stoned.
You doubled up.
I did.
That's an amazing. Well, I mean, and aside from the obvious, I imagine there'd be a lot of people who look at you and look at this project and go, "You're just taking the piss out of religion." But it wasn't that. This wasn't an entirely glib experience.
No, not at all. It was, it was an amazing experience because I did want to find the good things in religion. There were 2 parts. One was a little bit to take the piss out of fundamentalism by becoming the ultra-fundamentalist and show that if you try to take the Bible literally and follow everything, then you're going to act like a crazy man. So you do have to pick and choose, and you can't take the Bible too literally, and you can't say, oh, the Bible says homosexuality is a sin, therefore all homosexuals are sinners. But at the same time, I wanted to genuinely find out what there was in religion that was missing from my life, and I was able to find so much in there that enhanced my life and that I've kept even after my year.
What did you find?
Well, 100 things from big to small. One is just the idea of thankfulness, because you're always thanking with the Bible, giving prayers of thanks. And so it made me much more thankful. I try to realize the 100 little things that go right every day that we don't even notice, and instead of focusing on the 3 or 4 that go wrong, which is my natural tendency to just focus on those little ones that go wrong. So there's that. I started the year as an agnostic, and I ended the year as what a minister friend of mine calls a reverent agnostic, which I love the phrase.
What is that?
Well, it's whether or not there's a God. I believe there's something to the idea of sacredness, that rituals can be sacred, the Sabbath can be sacred, and there's an importance to that.
I think a lot of people can get behind that. I will tell you this, I would die if I couldn't work on a Sunday, because I have to work all the time. Or a Saturday, but you also like to work a lot.
I'm a workaholic too. Yeah, the Bible says you cannot work, and it's actually, you will be stoned to death if you work on the Sabbath. So you're in a lot of trouble, my friend.
I'm in a lot of trouble for a lot of things. It ain't just the fact that I like to work a lot. But on another serious note here, I know an undertaking like this is significant. I know that religion and faith can bring families together. It can also split families up when one goes down one route. Chart the relationship with your partner as the year went on. What was that like?
Well, that was interesting, because my wife said, you can do this, but I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm staying secular. So there was certainly some tension. She is a saint. She put up with quite a bit. Like the Bible says to build a hut once a year to remember our forefathers.
Well, remember the journey the Hebrews went on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's a very big, memorable moment.
Right.
What did you build a hut? Did you have an apartment or a house?
Well, that's the thing. I have an apartment in New York, and I couldn't get permission to do it on the sidewalk, so I built it in our living room. And she didn't appreciate the construction project.
Did you have DirecTV in your hut? None of that?
Well, it doesn't say thou shalt not watch DirecTV, so there were little loopholes I could find. So there was that, and then there was laws about touching during certain times of the month. You're not allowed to do that.
You can't be with a woman when she's menstruating.
Right. And you can't even sit on a seat. This is if you're really strict. You can't sit on a seat where a menstruating woman is sat. So I don't know what this, but...
You'll be surprised to know, AJ, I never really asked. I don't know.
Well, my wife hated this. She thought it was sexist, so she sat in every seat in our house. And I had to do a lot of things.
But that's another part of it. There are a lot of people who look at religion as a male, patriarchal. It's a very male-dominated, and if you read the letter of the law, it's anti-women.
Right.
I mean, how did that evolve for you?
Well, the Bible in parts does say that the man is the head of the household. That did not translate into my particular household. She was like, but I mean, that was one of the big lessons of the year, is that you have to pick and choose from the Bible, because there's so much wonderful stuff and compassion and mercy and wisdom in the Bible, but then there's also some sexism and homophobia. So you have to pick and choose. And there's a phrase for that called cafeteria religion. And people, fundamentalists, will use that as a disparaging term. But I say there's nothing wrong with cafeterias. I've had some great meals at cafeterias, and I've had some ones that made me sick to my stomach.
But what I mean, the year of living biblically will give you a much more enriched life. I'm sure you learned a lot about life. But
Right.
I mean, if you end up believing in a heaven, it ain't going to get you to heaven, because the Bible says if you buy it, there's only one way, and that's through Jesus Christ and all that stuff. Did you have any of those kinds of spiritual awakenings? Because can you really experience the Bible if at the end of the day you don't believe in Jesus?
Well, what I did was I did a lot of praying, and during the year...
Who'd you pray to?
Well, I prayed to God because I followed the Bible, even though I never prayed to God before, which was a weird experience, because I'm saying, as I say in the book, I rarely said the word Lord without following it by of the rings. And here I'm praying every day to a God, and you start to believe. It's very interesting to watch how behavior affects your thoughts. So if you're doing something, you start to believe. And there were times during the year where I really, really believed in a God that loved, and And as I say, it had an effect, because after the year I became this reverent agnostic. So I'm still an agnostic. I don't know whether there's a God, but I leave it open, and I like the idea of sacredness, and so much from religion that you can take to make your life better.
So you did the one where you read the Encyclopedia Britannica, so you know a lot. You've done the Bible thing, so you know that now. I mean, I'd like to see you try to live the Quran for a year. You're going to give that one a shot?
I'll talk to Salman Rushdie and see how it worked for him.
What do you do next? I mean, you obviously you don't just like to write. You throw yourself into these things.
I do like the immersing myself. Well, my wife says I owe her after these 2 projects, so she wants me to do a year of foot massages.
Nice.
Or something. So
very
I
popular.
got to talk to, yeah, be very popular.
The Year of Living Biblically, one man's humble quest to follow the Bible as literally as possible. Nice to see you, man.
Thanks, Jim.
A.J. Jacobs, everybody. All right, still becoming a program. It's our Gemini contest winner. Somebody out there, one of you, won a trip for 2 to the Gemini Awards in Regina. Plus, we're going to give you our new segment, Is This a Good Idea? Tonight, we've got a treehouse, but not in the way you think. And we'll get into this. All right, after the break, as many as possible, as literally as possible. For instance, you see that outfit he's wearing? No mixed fibers. That's because the Bible forbids the mixing of fibers. He also told the truth all the time. He was fruitful and multiplied. He's now the proud father of twins. He played a 10-string harp. He even stoned an adulterer. And I don't mean hotboxed them, I mean stoned them. I'm not kidding. You wrote about him?
Okay. But I had a kid. I wanted to find out about religion, and I do think it's the defining issue of our time. So I decided to dive in head first, because that's what I like to do, immerse myself, and I wanted to try to live the Bible, understand it.
And for a lot of people, I mean, even yourself probably thought, there was a period where they thought, well, eventually religions are going to go away. And eventually people are going to go, we're all going to become an agnostic. Retain any of that?
I retained about 0.05%.
Hey,
that's a lot. If you know, the encyclopedia is a big thing.
Absolutely. Why did you decide to live the year biblically?
Well, I grew up with no religion at all. As I say in the book, I'm Jewish in the same way the Olive Garden is Italian.
Right.
So, not very.
Like my manager always says that he's Jewish. That's what he feels like. I'm Jewish, you know?
I would say that too.
All right, this is A.J. Jacobs at the start of the year. Here he is at the end. That's a hell of a beard. Sorry, that's a heaven of a beard. Now, Jacobs says it got caught in zippers, he got food stuck in it, and he got a lot of attention from airport security. Apparently, that little beard there also made 2 girls cry. But the beard is just the beginning. Jacobs says there are more than 700 rules in the Bible. He followed it all in a book called The Year of Living Biblically. Here is the book, and here is the man cleanly shaven and all, Mr. A.J. Jacobs. I guess, you know, people would recognize you. You're on Oprah and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire as well.
That's true.
Your previous one where you became the man who knew everything.
Right. I read the Encyclopedia Britannica from A to Z.
Right, cool.